What happens when jurors are told to sit in a room and watch 51 minutes of graphic sex, with headphones on, behind closed doors? This wasn't just one clip. It was a full set of planned sex acts. People were paid, events were organized, and everything was filmed and saved. Inside the jury room, it was quiet, except for the moaning leaking out through the walls. The courtroom felt more like a dark movie theater than a place for justice. But this case isn't just about sex. It's about power, control, and the line between consent and manipulation. The jurors didn't just see the videos. They were shown drug receipts, fake names, and text messages that sounded more like a game than a crime. Then suddenly one juror was removed from the case. A new one was brought in. No reason was given. People are asking, did someone finally break, or is the court hiding something? Imagine this happening in your city. Would it feel like justice, or something much darker? Because this trial is about more than what's on screen. It's about who's really in control, and who might be getting used. Stay with us. By the end, you'll see that the person really getting screwed in this trial might not be who you think. The courtroom went silent as prosecutors played two private sex tapes. One 11 minutes, the other 40 minutes long. Only the jurors were allowed to watch. The public couldn't see, but they could hear. As the footage rolled, what started as scenes of pleasure slowly turned into what some say looked like forced performance. It wasn't just sex. It was about control. Each juror wore headphones, but the sounds of moaning still leaked into the gallery. Some people shifted in their seats, others looked away. It was uncomfortable. These weren't just videos. They were now evidence in a courtroom. Imagine private moments being judged by strangers. Forced intimacy turned into a legal case. Here's the twist. The tapes were shown to prove coercion, but instead sparked a bigger debate. Are we seeking justice or feeding into voyeurism? Tension grew. Female jurors showed visible reactions, some upset, some shaken. You could feel the pressure. Even when people in the gallery objected, the judge refused to stop the videos. He said they were important for the case. So if these tapes were meant to prove that Diddy controlled these women, what other proof do they have to back it up? The sex tapes may have shocked people, but the digital evidence is what really shows how deep this goes. In court, the FBI and a former bad boy paralegal brought forward text messages, drug receipts, and hotel records linked to Bad Boy and Combs enterprises. One message read, 15 pills of Molly. Ready, don't text about it. That doesn't sound like a party invite. It sounds like a command. Investigators also found multiple fake names, like Janet Clark and Frank Black, used to book rooms and organize these events. They showed spreadsheets that tracked escort payments, pill counts, and hotel bookings, like it was a business operation, not random hookups. Think of it like a director calling shots on a movie set, except the script was real life, and the actors might not have had a choice. Then came a strange turn. A juror, who worked as an accountant, was removed from the case. The court said it was due to residency, but some say it looked like outside pressure. The question now is, if this was all planned and documented, who takes the blame? The defense argues that some accusers sent texts like, "I'm excited," before these events. They say that shows the women had choice. But with so many details, from receipts to spreadsheets, can you really say it was all consensual? Because if this was a machine, who was really running it? The evidence was already hard to hear. But the real shock came from inside the jury. Juror number 6, a black man, was suddenly removed. The court said it was because he didn't live in the right area, but many people felt the timing was suspicious. He was replaced by a white accountant. That one change caused a wave of tension in the courtroom. Some said it could lead to a mistrial. The case had racial undertones already. This move only made it worse. Then came something stranger. The new juror got a text from an unknown number. It read, "Are you juror number 6? Imagine being in their shoes. Getting a text like that in the middle of one of the most intense trials of the year. In any trial, the makeup of the jury is critical. If it feels biased, the whole outcome can be questioned. Even though the judge denied a mistrial, the doubt remained. Some jurors even asked to hear the tapes again, but the request was denied. The defense argued that this wasn't a fair fight anymore. They said the trial was being steered, not judged. And if the jury itself is under pressure, can we still trust what comes next? Because now it's time to ask, who are the people really behind these events? And what were they trying to hide? When the jurors started to break, the case quietly turned towards someone who never even spoke in court. Christina KK Courtroom, Diddy's chief of staff. Her name came up again and again. One of her texts said, "Lock the doors." Another, "I'll talk to him tomorrow." Short lines, but they speak volumes. Then came a chilling message. "I can't do the violent scary anymore." That line was flagged by investigators, but KK never testified. Imagine removing a puzzle piece in the middle of a big trial. That's what her absence feels like. The defense said KK didn't matter. The prosecution says the exact opposite, that KK may have been the link between the planning and the violence. She lived close to the center of this storm. If she saw what happened, why is she silent? Some experts believe silent witnesses see the most. They stay quiet to protect others or themselves. And that silence adds another layer of fear. It's not just what people did, it's what they're too scared to say. With KK out of the courtroom, the jury is left with texts, tapes, and guesses. So after all the videos, the drug receipts, the juror switch, and now this missing voice, what are we really looking at? Because if this is justice, where does it go from here? After all the videos, texts, and missing voices, the prosecution made its final move. They called it a RICO case. They argued that this wasn't just about wild parties or private choices. It was an organized enterprise, a system built on control, money, and fear. They said Diddy's empire, from Bad Boy Records to Comb Enterprises, was the engine. The freak-offs, the plane rides, the hotel rooms, the pills, all part of a pattern. Every event had a money trail, a booking link, or a payment tag that pointed back to the same people. One lawyer even said, it's like if Starbucks ran an underground ring and kept the receipts. That's the heart of RICO. It's not about one act. It's about a system of acts, planned and repeated. The defense pushed back, saying the people involved chose to be there, that it was about consent, not control. But the prosecution's story was different. This wasn't free will. It was pressure, power, and a structure that made it nearly impossible to say no. Now the jury faces the hardest question. Was this just a business deal gone dark, or a case of human abuse disguised as lifestyle? Because if they agree it was a criminal enterprise, it's not just shame on the brand. It could mean federal prison time far beyond anything the state could do. So now it all comes down to this: consent or coercion, fantasy or force. And when the system is this big, who's really paying the price? This trial isn't just about crimes. It's about a planned system of control. What looked like wild parties and sex tapes were actually part of a calculated network, with schedules, payments, and even HR-like oversight. This wasn't chaos. It was business. Clean, logged, controlled. As the court watched in silence, the jury began to see it too. Subscribe for real-time updates as this case unfolds. Your take: is this consent or coercion dressed as choice? Drop it below.